Okay. John Barry, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me, Brooke.
All right, I want to do a quick little intro for people that don't know you because not everyone is as lucky as I am to know you. So I just want to read you a little bit of John's bio. So John, you help your clients fight some of the most important battles of their lives. Not only have you led successful teams in the courtroom, resulting in several jury trial victories, but you've also led soldiers in deployments to Iraq and Bosnia. Your warrior ethos has become the foundation for the firm's success. Beyond the battlefield and the courtroom, John's leadership experience extends to local community and national organizations that protect our constitutional rights and our veterans. So there's a whole bunch of other stuff. You know, you went to William and Mary, you went to Creighton for law school. Is it Creighton or Crichton?
It's Creighton.
Creighton, okay. One of my favorite guys when I took the CFA exam taught at Creighton, and he would fly down here to Texas and teach us CFA prep. I loved it. But I think your bio refers to the reason why I wanted you to come on today. You are a law firm that originally was absolutely aimed at helping veterans, right?
Yes.
And your firm has the most incredible culture. And I think it is because, though we're going to dig into it today and talk about it a little more, but almost everyone on your team is either has been in the military or is related to somebody in the military, a child, a spouse, a parent. And so you guys all know about putting the team first.
Absolutely.
And I think that is what is so amazing about the culture of your firm. So can you talk a little bit more? I know that one of your core values is this warrior ethos thing. Can you kind of talk about it a little more and how it relates and how it enables your team to interact and why it sets you apart?
Sure. And to be fair, we stole it from the Army. It's one of the Army core values, warrior ethos. I think if I recall, there are 7 or 9 or something. But, we had
you did not
memorize.
Steal. You borrowed.
Yes.
And what is it? Flattery is imitation is the sincerest form of flattery.
Right. And so we only have 5 core values because that's what EOS says the maximum should be. But
yep.
But no, it really, at its essence, it's you have to keep fighting. We all get knocked down. We have to get back up. And warriors never fight alone, right? The warrior ethos is about fighting as a team, right? We don't let a fallen comrade die on the battlefield, right? We are going to go back. We're going to help that team member. Now, that being said, they need to be a worthy team member to get on the team. But once we're there, then it's one of those things where we want to make sure that our team is growing and developing. I mean, it's not much different than your team, right? And if you develop that culture, you always know you're going to have a star. I mean, I remember when I was referred to you, Brooke, by a close friend of mine, said, "Oh, you got to hire Brooke. You got to hire a company. You know, if you have an in-house CFO, they become friends. But if you work with these people, it's going to be phenomenal. You got to get Brooke." And of course, I say, "Okay, I want to work with Brooke." And Brooke says, "I'm not available." And I'm like, "What do you mean you're not available?" And so I got Laura, and Laura is phenomenal, right? But that's part of the culture that you built, right?
Yes.
Is that you guys are brutally honest, and you're dead accurate. You tell people what they need to hear. And it's part of the culture. So at the end of the day, I didn't get Brooke Lively, and while I'm a little bit heartbroken, Laura Munson is phenomenal. But that's part of your culture. You guys tell it to us straight, open, honest, get to the point, and then the follow-up with, "Oh, by the way, do this." I mean, one of the best experiences I had with the company about 5 years ago that I have with your company now was an internet marketing company. Now they suck, but at the time they were great.
The time they were awesome.
Yeah, this guy, the problem was he got promoted, but he was like, "Hey, John, you need to go to Google New York for lawyers. John, you need to go to Lawyeronomics. You need to do this." He was so forward leaning, right? And then he got promoted, and then, you know, I was spoiled. Nobody was ever as good as him. We eventually left the company. But I great amount of respect that I have for that guy. Same way I feel about your organization, where I get, you know, Laura saying, well, you need to do this. You need to think about doing this. It's like, you know, I hate it when I'm pulling information. I'm not an expert in financials. That's what you're there for. And I love it when the expert tells me, John, here's what's coming next. And especially Laura, who will be very blunt about it.
Yes.
Right?
Well, we're all pretty blunt. So this is so off topic, but we're going to go there.
But it's your culture. But we're talking about
culture. It is our culture.
Ethos.
So one of the things we've got some new CFOs that are onboarding, and they're going through training. And one of them sent a draft email to me to approve before they sent it out to the client. And I'm like, yeah, no, you don't have to say please and thank you quite so much. Like, you got to tell them what to do. You've got to take the lead here. And I called it the mean nanny voice. And she was like, oh, you mean my mom voice? I'm like, yes, use the mom voice. It's going to be great. But yeah, it is about that culture and how we operate. And we do use we're very direct. We're not going to sugarcoat stuff. We're just going to call it as we see it. Part of that is my personality. And so, you know, that personality flows over into the company. And I've told you this story, so I hope it's okay that I tell it here. But when Laura first started working with you all, she had never been in an organization that has the chain of command like you all do. So she would get on calls, and there would be, you know, 3, 4, 5 of you on the call, and something would come up, and you and Laura would talk about it, and then you would throw out somebody's name, and you'd go on to the next topic. And Laura's in the back going, whoa, wait a minute, wait. And she'd be like, okay, so you just called out someone's name, and you're like, that person now owns it. They know when they have to report back about it. They've got the football. They're taking it down the field. Like, I love that your culture is like that everybody knows their role. And I think that part of it comes from imitating, respecting, ripping off the Army, whatever it is, and that warrior ethos and that team first approach.
Yeah, you know, absolutely. And it's one of those things that as you do it, I appreciate, for me, feedback is a gift, especially feedback that hurts. And we just finished I think you do EOS now too, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Our L10 meeting, right? And I always like it when there's a lot of conflict. Yes. Not everybody agrees with me, and I usually listen. And sometimes, you know, we had another meeting, and today we do our marketing meetings. Tuesday's a heavy meeting day. But a lot of times, you know, people will say, you need to admonish privately and praise publicly. And there's some value in that. But I'll tell you what, when you chew somebody's ass in front of the team gets it, especially when you as a leader know that maybe somebody else let that person down or misled them. I think there's some real value in that. And for me, I don't mind it, right? I mean, I'm so used to it. It's kind of like in My Cousin Vinny, right? Where he says, let me give you, the guy wants he wants his $200 that his fiance, I can't remember what the extent of it, but basically it was a pool shark type scheme. And so the lawyer's trying to get the money back. And the guy
is he wearing the funny suit at this point?
I think he's wearing the leather jacket at this point.
Oh, okay.
And of course, the guy that got suckered says, well, how about I kick your ass? And then they'll say, well, I'm a lawyer, and we lawyers, we like to make counteroffers. Here's my counteroffer. He's like, but I could use a good ass kicking. There's no doubt about that. And some days, that's good. And I feel as a leader, you get that a lot. And a lot of times the team doesn't see that. And some of my ass kickings have been very public, as you can imagine.
I was going to say, my team has definitely gotten on board with the public ass kicking of Brooke.
Good.
And I have to say, I love it, because they're calling me on the carpet. They're holding me accountable. They're holding me to our core values. And everybody knows that I have been taught that lesson. So I better not repeat it, whatever that mistake was. And I also love that my team feels empowered enough to have that conflict. They're not worried about their jobs. They're not worried about, ooh, what's Brooke going to say?
Right.
It is what it is.
Yep. Oh, wow. Our power just went out. Fortunately, I hope you can still see me. I got the ring light going. Okay, good. We're back up.
There you go.
But yeah, pain is a teaching tool, right? And I think you can internalize those things and enjoy the pain, and kind of say, okay, this is what's going to happen. But then as a leader, got to move on. I think of Michael Jordan, right? And this is a great example of Warrior Ethos. After the game, he would take the towel, put it over his head for 11 minutes and just soak in all the failure, all the lessons, and then bam, he's done with it, right? And I think as a leader, you need feedback as a gift. You need the feedback to grow. You need 360-degree feedback. You need to hear it from your boss. Whether sometimes that's in your case, probably your coach, but because you don't have a boss, or probably your dad. But
no, we try to keep him out of the business.
Well, fair enough. But also your peers and your subordinates, right? And so you need that feedback from everyone. And sometimes when the feedback hurts, you say, well, why does it hurt? Oh, probably because it's true. And then that warrior ethos is okay. So how do we build on this? How do we get better? I said, warriors are, you have to have a team, and you have to be honest with your team. And I think you have to be hard on your team. I think if you're not the one that's pushing them, you're doing them a disservice.
Yeah. Well, and I know that you do this, and I'm a fan of this. Like, as the leader, you set the example, you set the pace. And if you're not living by your core values, if you're not living the culture of your firm, why would anybody else?
Yeah, exactly. So true. So true. But that's the key, right? You find the people that understand those core values and maybe want to exemplify them, even if they don't right away. I think sometimes in the hiring process, we get, there's so many great models and systems, but at the end of the day, if you have somebody who has the desire and the ability, and maybe they don't yet embody those core values, it might just be because they're foreign to them. It doesn't mean they can't adopt them. Same way in the military, a lot of people don't come in with those values. They learn those values over time. Sometimes quickly, sometimes very slowly and painfully, but you learn the values over time.
Yeah, I have been amazed at how quickly, I don't know if you know this, my godson's at West Point.
Yes. Congratulations. I saw the photos.
Thank you. Yes, we're very excited. Now he just needs to graduate. Please, God, to graduate. But I was amazed at how quickly he picked up on some of the values and some of the things that I thought were going to be hard for him. I mean, he went from his room, like you had to wade into it through the clothes that were on the floor, to the only thing they could find when they inspected his room was he hadn't dusted the rim of the trash can. Like, he got it, and he got it fast, and he loves the core, and he loves that camaraderie. And I think that that's something that's found very much in your firm, is that camaraderie.
Yeah, absolutely. And I disagree with some of it. Like when you build those values, it's great, but then you learn more, about you build on some of those values, even if they no longer serve you. Like my last 2 years of high school to New Mexico Military Institute, which saved me. That's why I went to William & Mary and not West Point, right? I didn't want to go to a military academy again. I did 2 years of it, but we had daily room inspections. I remember that. And later in my, I had 2 company commands and a battalion command in the active Army and the National Guard. And one of the last job I had was a commander of the Officer Candidate School program, where they had to make their bunks and clean it and set everything up in their rooms. And, I thought back to that. And while that was going on, Admiral McRaven gave his famous speech at the University of Texas about
make the bed.
Yeah, make the bed. And I stood up and said, what a bunch of shit. Let me tell you, if you really want to be successful, pay someone to make your bed. Because in the 4 minutes that it takes you to make a perfect military style bunk with hospital corners, back when I was in shape, I could do 100 push-ups and 100 sit-ups in 4 minutes. You could read... Think about all the, I could read my rules of evidence as a lawyer. I could read a couple rules. I could read a couple pages of a book. I could do something extremely important. And we know that our energy levels are at the highest in the morning, right? We're most paranoid in the morning, and we're going to waste that energy making our bed. That's absurd, right? Now, if you want to own the Ritz-Carlton and you want to learn how to make a bed, hey, do it, right? But if you want to be the best accountant, the best lawyer, the best at whatever you do, it's not going to be making your bed. and it's not going to be cleaning your room. And I think it's good to learn that discipline, but I totally disagree. I don't build on small, meaningless successes so that you come home to a clean bed. Build on the big successes. And that's, whether that's writing a thank you note to somebody first thing in the morning. For some people, it's about meditation or spirituality, but it's about doing something important. It's not about making a bed or cleaning a room.
Yes. But I do agree with you. It's the discipline. Okay. Do you know about Mel Robbins and the 5-second rule?
I know about the 2-second rule. I do that all the time when I drop food on the ground. Tell me about the 5-second rule.
So the 5-second rule is a thing that Mel Robbins did where you count back 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then you take action, whatever the action is. And she has what she calls $1 million mornings. And one of the things in the $1 million morning, there are like 5 or 6 things you do that will propel you towards having $1 million day, week, month, year, whatever it is. And one of them is to make a list of the 3 things that have to be done. What are the 3 things you need to do today that will move your business forward? And I think that making your bed is never going to make that list. That's
right.
Never going to move your business forward. But what are those 3 things? And, she's a proponent, and there's a book written by another military guy, I think, called The One Thing.
Oh, well, that was the Keller Williams guy.
Oh, is that who wrote that one?
Yeah.
But, then go into the office and do those 3 things before you do anything else so that you've had the win, you've done the thing that's going to move your business forward the most during the day. Anything else is gravy.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I think sometimes it's deceptive, right? Because some of those things are not that hard.
No.
I think last week, I had 2 interviews with 2 amazing rock star attorneys. And, those were the most important things I did all week. I had a lot of hearings and those all went well and everything, and the practice went well. But, unless it's a trial or a hearing that's going to dispose of the case, sometimes the stuff is just really about kind of shaping the battlefield. And so it's not going to solve the problem. But here's, having lunch with a guy could solve a problem. Yep. Right. And so, sometimes it's a hard fought. I'm sure you can imagine 3-week white collar jury trial, right? With more forensic accountants and numbers than I care to deal with. And that's 3 hard weeks to do one thing, right? Mm-hmm. But sometimes it's a lunch with the right person or a phone call with the right person.
Or in your case, the interviews for rockstar attorneys that may or may not join your team. And if they do, you're building your team, you're building your future, you're building that success that you're looking for, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And when you find those people, even if they don't join your team now, they might join later, and there's still always great referral sources, mm-hmm. and you can develop friendships. And I mean, for me, you never waste time hanging out with great people. I mean, that is the best use of your time. You develop that social capital, you learn amazing things, and those are the great opportunities. Now, that doesn't mean that sometimes you don't have to have your nose in a book, and you have to spend the time to learn something. We know that mastering any subject takes about 10,000 hours or 10 years. If you work hard, if you work for me, I'll get you there in 6 years. You're just going to work, 70-hour weeks, but I can get you to mastery in 6 years.
Can get you there.
Right. But I think that's really what it's about, right? When we talk about the warrior ethos, it's being deliberate, right? Mm-hmm. Once I decide to do something, decide, right? Think about it, means to kill off all other options, right? We talk about like infanticide, homicide, right? Suicide, right? But decide, you just kill off all the other options. And for me, I look at it like once I make that commitment, I'm in. And for most people, it's so hard for them to make decisions because what if I'm wrong? Well, I'm wrong most of the time. It doesn't really matter. You just get better. Once you commit to something, then you can adjust fire from there. But until you really start putting rounds down range at the target, you don't know. And people hesitate. And I think that's one of the advantages we have in our organization. We talk about leadership is that we run with a chain of command. And so the staff will give me ideas. A lot of times I will follow their recommendation. Sometimes I don't, but I make the decision. And once I make the decision, if I'm wrong, we'll adjust fire and go back. And if I make the wrong decision, it's okay. We'll survive it. We'll figure out a way to do it. But the key is to just make the damn decision.
It's to take action. So I I found a new podcast today. I haven't gotten a chance to listen. It's called MF CEO. So the MFing CEO. And I can't wait because really, when I was reading just a little blurb about it, it talked about being in action. It talked about making that decision. It talked about the fact that it doesn't have to be the right decision. It just has to be a decision. And I think back to, when I was working at the hedge fund and we would talk about private equity. Do you realize that only 1 in 10 private equity deals makes money?
I did not. I don't even know what private equity is, Brooke. So.
Those are the guys who are buying companies, trying to make them more profitable, and then either selling them or IPOing them in making a just disgusting amount of money.
Right.
They fail 90% of the time.
Right.
And that's, I'm so excited about this new podcast because that's so true. And I believe that. I mean, we've talked about the basketball team that sinks 100% of their shots, but they always wait for just the right shot. So they only shoot 25 times in a game versus the other team who takes every possible shot and shoots 200 times during the game and only sinks 25% of them. Who's going to win? It's the team that takes the shots. It's the team that makes the decision.
Yep. Every time, and I had a great experience with that. Actually, last week I had, after my 2 great interviews, I had the momentum, right? So I'm feeling pretty good. And then there's another key position. This is a key position where I actually have hired a headhunter, and not just a headhunter that get paid if they find it, but you pay them before, and it gets expensive, but you're looking for the absolute best talent. And I was talking to a member of our team, and he said, "Why don't you contact this person?" Almost like daring me, right? And he's like, well, if you think about it, this person's an obvious cultural fit, this, and this. I doubt she would leave her job, but why don't you try it?
And you're like, challenge accepted.
Yeah. And you know what? That person's now interested. And so
that's awesome.
Yeah. And it was a complete long shot, right? Like, it was like a dare, like, in talking about all the people that Headhunter found that we're not happy with. And he's like, well, why don't you just call this person? I'm like, really? Like, they're not going to leave the dream job to come here. Well, why not? So I thought, worth a try. And, it was someone who had fit all of our criteria. Someone that had grown an 8-figure company into a 9-figure company. And it's like, wow, like, this is the person. And you make the phone call and I'm interested in that challenge. So sometimes it's just having the guts to ask the question. But make the decision. And, I know a lot of law firm owners, and the way our chain of command is set, it's not like a big partnership where all the partners sit around and make a decision. I was listening to one partner in a firm complain that, hey, we just spent 6 months and we finally decided what color the carpet's going to be in the new office.
Oh my gosh. That's the time when you want to just string yourself up. Can you imagine living in that environment all the time?
Yeah. And the politicking and keeping people happy, there's no leadership, right? It's all about leadership by committee and consensus. Well, you're not always going to have consensus. And that's what leadership is. It's making a decision without a consensus. Anybody can make a decision with a consensus.
Well, it's going to take you a while.
Yeah.
If you get there.
6
months to decide on the color of the carpet.
Right. Exactly.
Golly, that sounds miserable. Yeah, I agree. I'm a big fan of the decision. And that's one of the things that we look for when we take on new clients. Will they take action? Because we know that the clients that make decisions and take action achieve incredible results. The ones who say, let me think about it, I don't know, and they've got things on their to-do lists from, 8 months ago, they're not going to make the big leap. And John, you do realize, I think you hold the record for my shortest sales call ever.
Well, I still feel like but see, that was the problem. I was already told I was trying to hire you. So actually you rejected me, hurt my feelings. And then I just said, fine, I'll take Laura. So, it really wasn't, it was actually, you may have closed the sale, but I felt like I lost on that one because I didn't get Brooke. But no, I know what I want. And I hate sales calls where they want to sell me. I'm like, no, like, you don't understand. I already want this. and I want this, and this. So at the end of the day, I'm like, no, you don't understand. I'm the buyer here. I want what you're selling, but I also want these three other things. And sometimes that's a difficult conversation to have with people because, I'm already 3 steps ahead. I already know what I want. And then here's the next phase. And I think, that can backfire every now and then. And leaders make decisions. And the reality is, okay, I've got some, and to be fair, I mean, I had followed you since you did some stuff for How to Manage. So I saw you in action on stage. And I'm like, okay, this person obviously gets it. Like, this is I'm hearing a bunch of stuff and I'm like, this presentation, I'm like, wow. Okay, wait, like I'm ready to turn it off. I'm like, wait a minute. All of a sudden there's somebody who's actually making sense, talking numbers that make sense to me. Now keep in mind, Brooke, I had a paper out since I was 10. I detasseled corn. I know what it's like to have AR, when you're a kid and people won't pay you the $7 a month for your paper. Back then when they were abducting paper boys, I had to go out and collect the money, right? This is back, when the paper boys would get abducted and missing. And not only did we have to deliver the papers in the morning, but then we had to collect the money. And, and I learned a lot of important lessons. And so I knew enough to know what makes sense, but there's so much that I didn't understand in terms of marketing and sales and how everything's a funnel, even hiring. It all comes down to numbers. And until you embrace that, you're always just going to be kicking yourself. And one of the best things that happened, my brother came to work for us. He has a systems degree from Stanford, an MBA from UCLA.
So he's really dumb, right?
Yeah. So he's going to, he comes into systematized stuff and we have all this tribal knowledge, right? And everybody's like, oh, well, it depends. Well, what do you do when this happens? It depends. And he took this whiteboard, this whole wall, and just charted out all of our systems. He's like, this is what your law firm looks like, and he had to dig hard though, because people would say, he's like, okay, I want the 4 different options when this happens.
Right.
Well, it depends.
When you say it depends, what are the 4 things that could happen?
Nothing depends. There's a number you can put on everything. And on one of my favorite sayings is cash doesn't lie. In a law firm, people talk about, well, I billed this many hours. Great. How many did you collect? Because that's all I care about. It's at the end of the day, all I care about is you being productive and reaching your goals. And then I get someone who comes in who they're all about the billable hours. And I'm like, but you get paid based on the dollars you collect. So wouldn't you want to do that? And if I'm the leader and you're following me because you want me to try to give you a better life, I'm trying to tell you that,
this is the
10
way.
million billable hours a year that don't get you paid is not going to get you to your financial goals. And maybe you don't care about having, a toaster from Walmart, but your wife who wants one from Restoration Hardware does not like the fact that you're not collecting the money. And now we need to have a good conversation about AR, which, by the way, Laura beats us up every month about AR. And, I mean,
Well, so the analogy I use all the time, I use 2 analogies about AR. 3. All right. So the first is AR is like rotting fruit. Every day that goes by, you're going to get less nutrition from it. Right.
Yeah.
So the second is, I think, or let me rephrase, when people come to see us, they have about a 75% collection rate. If they were a car dealership, that means that they sell 3 cars and the 4th one they give away for free. That's no way to run a business.
No.
And there's a big legal survey that comes out every year. And it says that the collection rate is 86%, which really I think is totally not true. So let's just say it's 80%. If your collection rate is 80%, that means that your team is coming in and billing 4 days a week and getting paid for it. And the 5th day, you're basically just holding them hostage in the office for no reason.
Yep.
Nobody wants to do that. So it goes back to why do you care about how many hours you bill? You need to be concerned about how many hours you collect, because that's the key. And I think you're right. Now, to collect hours, you do have to bill them, but
Yeah. And I learned that one of those lessons the hard way too. In one of our contingency practices, you've had people in there we really, you evolve, right? So we were not very good at tracking the productivity. Now we're great at it. Before I was like, well, cash doesn't lie. If the money's there, they did the work, but the reality is, no. a lot of times in contingency practice, you don't realize they weren't working till it's 6, 8, 12 months later, and then you're feeling the effects. And so it
Well,
is,
or they're overworking a case. That's
yes.
so easy to do in a contingency case.
Yeah.
Are you just looking for some hours to pad your time? Yeah, we don't want those hours.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's unfortunate in the legal industry, but I hear this all the time from whether it's young lawyers, or I remember my peers when I graduated from law school, and they all had these billable, we don't have billable hour requirements, but they had billable hour requirements. I'm like, how do you meet those requirements? And it was like, hearing what they said they were doing was just mind blowing. Power went out again. But I was like, do people really want to pay for that? Right. I mean, in a contingency practice, we have to be much more efficient and make sure we're doing the right things. Whereas some of the stuff that one guy that I spoke with was like, well, when I worked for, an hourly firm, the big insurance company, yeah, absolutely. We had to bill for everything. Now he's like, I don't have to do those tasks anymore. I can have a paralegal do them. I'm like, well, couldn't have you had a paralegal do them all along? Yeah, but that wasn't the firm policy. So the guy isn't spending his life or, practicing law. He's spending it doing paralegal work to bill, which is ridiculous.
Right. And that's a problem, because we always want to push work down to the qualified but lowest paid person, the least expensive person. Always. It is a win-win situation. Usually you have a better margin on your paralegals than you do on your attorneys, and it doesn't cost the client as much. And so the client is happier. I mean, what client wants to pay $500 an hour for somebody to call the court and check in with the clerk about something?
Right. And then, but think about the quality of life for the attorney as well. If you're working in your unique ability, doing what you do best, that's where they're going to be happiest. Working on the stuff that they're good at, the difficult stuff that they really have to focus on. I mean, that's what lawyers want. They don't want to be doing these, these ministerial tasks. And unfortunately, sometimes, that's when you start talking about billable hours, people get so caught up in the time of the work, they forget about the quality of the time that they're spending in the case. I mean, there is going to be this key time that's going to make a difference in the case, and that's where you need to focus your effort, not on the rote tasks that you're required to do, right, or that need to happen for this file to move forward. And that's really key, because that's one of the downsides of, I think, of a lot of people who judge their productivity based on the number of hours billed. Now, that being said, we do need to track our time, and time studies are great. I was going to say,
now, don't you go jump on all over my tracking time thing.
No, I think it's important, but I think it's important to be very deliberate about it and understand what quality of time that you're actually tracking. Are you doing, the stuff that's in your unique ability? Or are you doing stuff that you suck at, and then you're still billing for it, when maybe there's another attorney or another staff member who could do it better, do it more efficiently and faster? Because we want to provide the best possible value for our clients, but also the best possible experience for our employees and our team. And the way we do that is we get people to work and do the things that they're the best at, and then, work with a team member to do the other things. Sometimes that means delegate it. Sometimes it means talk to a peer and have a peer help you out.
Right. Yeah. There's nothing worse than having somebody kind of toiling alone in isolation. And, if they can't figure it out, that are spending hours on the internet Googling. Stop Googling, ask for help. And I think that that's something that's big in your firm, is that you are very team-based.
Yeah, it comes from two things. Number one, Dan Sullivan, who, not how. You solve problems with who, not how. Find the who, that you don't have to worry about the how. But even in the Army, in our mission statement, we always tell the who, what, when, where, and why. We never give the how. We never tell someone how to do something. Now, that doesn't mean we don't have policies and procedures and guidelines and all that stuff that is required to run a business. But when we give someone a task, we expect them to figure out how to do it. That's why we're hiring people that are smarter than us, so they can tell us how to do it.
Mm-hmm. And isn't it great the first time you hire that person that's way smarter than you are?
Oh, yeah.
And you're like, this is awesome. And then every time thereafter, like, I just get a huge thrill. And I'm like,
oh, yeah. And
I can't do that. Yay, but they can.
Yeah. And I think, it was Jack Welch that said, A's will hire A's, but B's will hire C's. And so you need, only a team member who is highly confident in their ability will ever hire someone smarter or better than them, because the person who's not will always gravitate toward the person that is not a threat to them. I mean, I want everybody to be smarter than me, right? If I'm the smartest person in the room, I'm in the wrong room. Now, unless I'm in the courtroom,
Absolutely.
right?
Well,
Other than
yes,
that,
in the courtroom, and you just hope that the judge can keep up with you.
right. Well, and it's interesting from that regard, too, as a young lawyer, I always just assumed that, oh, these guys are the bravest, smartest lawyers. And I had this judge tell me, when I was in law school, and I was, as a third-year law student, he said, no, you don't get to be a judge by being a good lawyer. You get to be a judge by being a good politician. He let me know, and it's, you hear that, but it doesn't change your perspective. So you get old, right? Now that I'm 45 years old, now a lot of my friends, people I've tried cases against, are now on the bench, and certainly there are some, phenomenal lawyers that became judges, and you're just like, wow, this guy was so great. But then there's other people like, man, I tried a case against that guy, I beat him, and he's telling me
this. With him.
Yeah. And so it's a different, you still have a respect for the position, but it is different, than what I thought. It really is, but once again, I think that people, they get to whatever position you're going to be in life, whether it's a judge, the president of a company, they've made that decision to pursue. And I respect that, right? If this is what you want and you go after it, you have my respect. And especially, so people that want to become judges, that want to serve, for me, I've always looked at it as kind of like being a referee, right? Where there's going to be, you're going to have to let the lawyers fight it out and you decide who's fair. And to me, like, being outside of the fight isn't fun. But for some people, they really, that's their calling, and they love it. And it's the best thing they ever did. But once again, I respect people who decide this is what I want to do, because it's not easy to get there. You have to pass a few background checks, and quite frankly, you have to treat people well and with respect, because there's going to be hearings and there's going to be people that are going to determine your fate. And so I think, if that's your decision, then it's a very long route to go, and you have to be very goal oriented to get there. Now, once again, it's not a position I would ever want. As a matter of fact, it just doesn't appeal to me at all. But for some people, it's very important, and it's their lifelong goal and their lifelong dream. For me, it's always about what's bigger, what's next. And so I would never want to be in that position where it's, okay, I'm going to be here in this position.
Okay, so here I am. Where do you go from there?
Yeah.
And at this point, if you're not a judge already at 45, John, I got to tell you, Supreme Court is looking a little doubtful.
Yeah.
You don't really have that jurisprudence record that they can.
And as and I spent a lot of my time as a criminal defense attorney as well, which usually, probably not as usually, you're going to see a lot more prosecutors and people who have a little different experience than me.
Yeah. Okay. So can we talk about, so you've got this team, they're very focused. You've got a great chain of command. You've got a fabulous company culture. A lot of it is because you hire so many veterans and you serve veterans like that. Those are your ideal clients. How has having that in place helped your growth? Because you've made the Inc. 5000 list for 4 years now, right?
Yes. Yep.
All right.
We'll make it the 5th year in 2020. We're on track. So
yeah, I know you are. All right. So how does that contribute to your growth?
Well, I think there's a multitude of factors, right? Number one is you have the right team. That's the most important. And then your team, because the clients are pursuing the same mission, right? You have the right clients. So you have the right clients, you have the right team. You could probably quote statistics and numbers about how much it costs to lose team members and all that stuff.
You don't even want to know. It's disgusting.
Yeah, I know. So you don't need to quote those things. So and what it costs to retain or keep a client, right? So, we, our best clients are referrals. So we build a culture of referrals. And if we have a great team and we have great clients, then that's how it works, right? Marketing's job is to bring in the right clients and the right numbers and to keep out the wrong people. I think sometimes, especially in lawyers, you know, when I used to really be involved in the intake to really understand this a few years ago, inevitably, at least once a month, I would get an email that would go something like this. Please help. My last lawyer completely screwed me. I've already filed a bar complaint. I need someone to get on this case immediately. It's a short fuse and I'm all out of money because the other lawyer took it. Please help me. Right. And
Please
so,
tell me you were going, danger, Will Robinson, danger.
yeah. And so, I mean, as a lawyer, you know, when we become lawyers, we want to help people, right? So it's like, oh my gosh, like, how do I help? But then you think, you're right. Oh my gosh, this person
he's out of money. He's already sued his attorney.
Yeah.
Like, this is not an A+ client.
No, this is a bar complaint and a malpractice complaint waiting to happen, right? And they're waiting for you to do this. They're waiting for you to pick up the phone, call them so that they can blame you, right? And so, but you know, as a young lawyer, you think, oh my gosh, what a travesty, this poor person, right? And then it's kind of like, you know, then down the road, it's kind of like that Nigerian prince email, right? You know, they evoke the sympathy, but the reality is it's really just more of, there's a lot of missing information and untruthful information that you're getting. And then usually by the time you look deep enough, hopefully it's not too late, but you realize that this is not a case you want. But it is, having the right clients, I think, is extremely important in terms of growing, because it's like you said, otherwise you're going to be giving away 1 out of every 4 cars if you don't, because the right clients are happy to pay. They understand your value, and it's usually a reciprocating relationship. And in fact, our best clients refer us cases. So we're getting referrals, especially our veteran clients. They're referring cases to us. They are, they pump up our employees. One of the great things that happened during COVID, I guess maybe it's still going on for you. For us, it's kind of died down a little bit. But some of our clients are calling to check in on us. Hey, how are you guys doing? I just wanted to make sure you guys are still doing okay. But that's also like the great part of being part of the veteran community, right? Veterans look out for each other, and they're always, it's always about, how do I serve? Not just in the military, but a lot of them, once they get out of the military, then it's like, how can I serve my community? And it's one of those things where once you're a hero, it's hard to stop being a hero. And so they always seem to want to step up and help. And it's great to have clients who share your goals, your values and your beliefs.
Yeah, that's amazing. All right. So what I'm hearing, I'm going to distill this down, is that you've got a great culture, and the culture extends. It's not only your team, but it extends to your clients. And because you have that, your biggest source of new clients are your existing clients. And that's what's allowed you to grow and scale so successfully.
You nailed it.
Hot diggity, look at me. Distilling it down to the salient fact.
That's how you save money on your marketing. And this is one of the conversations I have with the new lawyers. I'm like, look, we're not spending money on marketing for a one-off. We're looking to find the right clients, develop relationships with them. Hopefully they'll be lifelong clients. I mean, the unfortunate reality of our life is this, Brooke, that every year, and you don't have to name these people, but at least one person who's been arrested, one who's getting a divorce, and one who's been seriously injured, probably in a car accident, right?
Yes.
So there you go. You don't have to give names, right? But then who would you think of, right? So Barry Law, America's Veterans Law Firm, John Barry. We need to call him, right? But I need to be top of mind for you to think that way. And so, but if you have good memories about our experience, it's going to happen. So when I spend that, whatever it is, $200 to acquire a client, it's not because I want, to have that client one time. No, I want someone that I have a relationship with that I'm proud to represent, and that's proud to be represented by our firm.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're going to spend $200 to get that client that's going to refer over the next 10 years, 10 clients to you. So you're not spending $200 for one client, you're spending $200 for 11 clients.
Exactly. Now, consider the other end of the problem, Brooke, where I spend $200 to get the person who turns out to be a client that fires us, writes a negative review online, and then, you know, and then files all sorts of complaints. And now now it's costing me, you know, thousands of dollars to protect my reputation because I let the wrong client hire me.
Yeah. Now you've bought a headache.
Right.
A reputation damaging headache.
Yep.
Yeah. We don't like that. That's not the way to go. I promise you, your CFO will not say that is a good ROI on that investment.
No. And, you know, I mean, I think the best ROI has always been on people, team members,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, the worst ROI, right? People, either clients or team members that didn't work out. And what I mean by that is occasionally, you know, there's somebody who's not going to be a fit on your team.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they just quietly kind of go off in the corner, and you can tell they're just not engaged. And you know, and then if we're keeping them on the team, we're doing them a disservice. They want to be somewhere else. Let's free them to go somewhere else.
Give them the capability, give them the freedom. Absolutely.
And then there are those people that are just horribly toxic who are actively trying to sabotage you. And you know, I've seen that happen in other organizations, and you know, it just blows my mind, right? That this person who my buddy just called me, told me this is his best person, and they're at the bar talking trash about him and the organization, posting bad things about them on social media. And I'm just like, you know, and sometimes that's the worst. That's where you get the negative ROI. The right people, you know, year after year produce great things. I think the real difficult thing in leadership is sometimes someone who's the right person at the right time, you may outgrow, or they may outgrow you.
Absolutely. It's a happy day and a sad day. I mean, you have to reflect on how they were perfect for you during a certain period, and how you have now put them in a position where they're not happy because they're not succeeding.
Right.
And you've got to take the responsibility for that and solve the problem.
Yep. Yeah. And I think sometimes too, we look at someone's capabilities in a specific area, and we say, wow, that's great. And then a year later, it's like, oh man, we needed another capability. I remember we hired this woman, and she was really bright, really sharp. And we hired her in our marketing department. And, you know, finally she came, and she just wasn't really hitting it off with the team. I think she was just not very hands-on. She liked to tell people what to do, but not really, she wasn't very present with the team. And
you guys, everyone pitches in. It's all for one and one for all. Yeah. Okay.
And that was, yeah. And that was there. So culture was there, but she knew what she was doing. And then finally, you know, she came and said, you know, I would have been great for you 2 years ago. And it was kind of something we got it. It wasn't that she was like lazy, or that she just felt like we had kind of gone past where she could add the value, and she didn't really know what to do. And so, you know, the perception was, oh my gosh, this person's like lazy. They don't want to do anything. They're just kind of, you know, telling people what to do. But the reality is that's all she really knew how to do at that level. She said, but everything I'm telling them to do, they're already doing. I don't know how I can help you.
I can't add value. I don't know how.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, and what a great experience for you to have that way, because usually a lot of times what happens is the Peter principle, which was a little bit of this, you know, where you promote someone to the point of their incompetence and then they fail. And that's not, I mean, no one enjoys that, because you had a perfectly good employee until you gave them added responsibility that was outside of their capabilities.
Yeah. So. And I think our real failure in this one was, Brooke, we were hiring for the capabilities we had, not where we were going. And so by the time we hired this person, they fit the job description 100%, could do everything we wanted. But the problem was we were already doing it.
You were there. Yeah.
We were already there. And it's like, and that was the difficult conversation. I have great respect for this person to say to us, look, I think we got this mixed up here, because you said you were hiring me for all these things, but you already have all these systems in place. You're already doing all these things. I'm not really adding any value here. I mean, that took a lot of guts, right?
That did take a lot of guts. Please tell me you helped her find a new job somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, you know, it was a great thing. And once again, we were hiring for who we were at the time, not for who we wanted to be in the future.
Yeah. So my publisher is so interesting. She says that that's what happens when people write books, that they have an idea for a book for about 2 years and they sit on that idea, and then it takes about a year to write the book. So by the time the book comes out, it's about who you were 3 years ago. And she believes that her job is to help you look forward so that you write a book that's ahead of where you are right now. And I think that's just fascinating and true. I mean, it's hard to be able to look ahead and hire ahead of where you are.
Yeah, I think so. So how long did it take you to write your book?
Do I have to actually answer that question?
I guess you're the host. Maybe it was improper for me to ask, but
it ended up taking me about a year and a half. I mean, how long did it take for me to actually write the book? About 6 weeks. How far did I drag this out? About a year and a half.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
But she did. Like, that book is useful to me, and it will continue to be useful to me for a few years. And actually, we're coming out with the next book in the series probably next spring. So it's still a concept that works for me.
Good. Well, I've learned there's all these shortcuts to it. I have not. I put together a short veterans disability book, but which is more of kind of educating our clients and our team than the next great American novel. But maybe sometime in the near future.
I'm not saying that mine's the next great American novel, but it is an easy to read book about what numbers you should look at as an attorney.
Which is a difficult thing to do because most attorneys don't like to look at numbers other than their paychecks, right?
Right.
So it is difficult to reading about numbers. If they wanted to read about numbers, they would have been an engineer, right? I mean, or a mathematician, physicist, whatever.
That's right. Accounting. But back to where we started this conversation, part of our culture in this company is that we are very plain spoken. We tell it as it is. We don't use fancy words. We talk in what we call kitchen table English. Everyone can understand what we're saying. Everyone can understand the concepts that we're explaining. And the book's the same way. It's just an extension of who we are as a company. So, yeah.
Well, yeah, I think, and I think that's what's so great about your culture. I mean, you have to have that blunt honesty, right? Because if you don't, then how will your clients ever really trust you? You know, I just this year I'm coaching my son's flag football team, and I asked kids, okay, how many kids ran this summer, right? And they all raised their hand, and I said, okay, we're going to go on a nice, 400-meter run. Like half the kids didn't make it, 100 meters. And, and I have this conversation all the time with, back when I was in the officer candidate school commander. And I said, okay, you guys all want to be officers in the Army. You have your nephew who's the,
Yep.
What class is he at West Point?
He is a cow,
okay.
Which means that he's a junior.
Right.
I'm like, what do you mean? He's got a new name this year. Now he's a cow. I think cow's third year, right?
Yeah. So yeah, you get some people that say, well, I want to, let's say, okay, I want an appointment to West Point or to the Naval Academy, right? So it says, okay, how fast can you run 2 miles? How many push-ups can you do? How many sit-ups can you do? How much do you weigh? How'd you do on your SAT? How'd you do on the ACT? What are your grades, right? And then you have that conversation. Say, okay, here's where your grade, this is where you need to be physical fitness wise, grades, activities by next year if you want to go to one of the academies or Harvard or wherever. And then the next year they show up and they've done none of it. You say, well, you don't want to be in any of these things. You didn't do it. It's kind of like, the guy, I had this guy, and he told me that he was going to, get down to 6% body fat. And I said, no, you're eating a donut. You don't want to get down to 6% body fat. Quit lying. I mean, you can lie to me all you want, but you're lying to yourself.
You're lying to yourself.
And the numbers, right? The numbers really give us the truth. Right. And so it tells us what actions we're taking and in what quantities and in what quality. And if we don't have the numbers, we don't have the truth. And so what I really like about your organization is it's really blunt about the truth. And I love the fact that you guys never use the most offensive 4-letter word in the English language, which is fair. Nobody in your organization ever starts talking about what's fair, because as we know, that's like the most disgusting 4-letter word you can ever hear as a business owner, right? Because Fair is a word used by spectators and people on the sidelines. When you're in the fight, when you're in the game, you're worried about following the rules and winning. If other people, if it's not fair, well, you don't just stop playing and say it's not fair. No, the spectators on the sideline talk about, well, that wasn't fair. But when you're in the game to win, right? And you know, you've got to follow the rules. You've got to do the right thing. And you can't get caught up in what's fair and what's not. You can't cry about the fact that it wasn't, someone did something that wasn't fair or someone had an advantage you didn't have. Nothing is fair. Nobody starts off, on the same starting line. Some people start ahead of the others. But I did read an interesting study. I think it was published by Harvard Business School.
Uh-huh.
If you don't make it by age 40, you will not make it. And they did this study, and they went into like some of these poor neighborhoods. They went to the wealthiest neighborhoods, and they found that these kids from these wealthy neighborhoods, they have great advantages in their 20s and in their 30s. But by the time they hit their 40s, those that came from disadvantaged neighborhoods, generally, if they made it, they made it. And those that had advantages their whole life, by the time they were 40, they were starting to fail. No one was there to help them anymore.
Advantages had dried up. So the advantage will only get you so far.
Right.
And then by the time you're 40, it's all on your own merit. Either you've made it or you haven't.
Right. And so it comes back to how much truth can you accept? And where does that truth come from? Well, hopefully your CFO, or hopefully from your numbers, right? And numbers, whether it's you're counting, the amount of times you exercise a day, a week, or you're counting your calories, or you're counting, but there's truth in when we actually have, because numbers give us accountability, right? As much as I hate numbers, I love accountability. And if we have the numbers, we can be accountable. And especially when people give it to us in a very blunt manner. And we can't really argue about what's fair.
Blunt but kind. Let's be fair. Blunt.
Yeah, but we don't fair. Don't use that.
We're not mean about it.
But you got the manners are great. I mean, especially Laura's got the Southern accent from Texas, so she's much more much more of a hospitable.
It comes across softer than.
Right. It comes across very soft and very nice. And I went to William & Mary, and I'll tell you, the people from the South always sounded a little bit slower, but nicer. But the people from the Northeast always sounded meaner, right? So you probably don't hire people from the Northeast, because I haven't heard anybody come off really mean, but I don't mind it, right? I mean, if Laura would start yelling at me, it wouldn't hurt my feelings, because she's telling me the truth about my numbers.
Yep.
And so even if she'd be snotty about it, it'd be like, hey,
okay, well, it's the truth. So,
Yeah. I go to this conference every year at the St. Regis, and they're all snotty there. It's you go to the Ritz-Carlton, they treat you really well. You go to the St. Regis, it's a little different atmosphere, right? But people, at the end of the day, you're still getting great service. So it's okay. And for me, it's kind of the same way. I just want to hear the truth. Give me the numbers. And so, but no, Laura's very gentle with us. Which is why I like to talk to her instead of having my team talk to her. 2 reasons. Number one is, she has no relationship with anybody else on the team. So she can call anybody out. And I love that, right? Just get brutally honest with me, Laura. Tell me who I need to fire based on the numbers, right? And that's not saying I'm going to go out and fire somebody, but it tells me who needs to improve, right? It tells me, I'm not out there, I want everybody to succeed. But if I do it just on feelings and what I observe, I'm never going to get there. I need someone to tell me the numbers.
Yeah.
And Laura does that. Your team does a phenomenal job. And what I really love, like I said, is just the honesty. And I can take it. She is polite, and I like the fact that she's polite, but I don't need it. If you and I correspond, Brooke, I'm not going to probably say a lot of please and thank you. Brooke, just tell me what you need.
That was what I told our new CFO. I'm like, you got to ditch some of these please and thank yous. Just get to the point and say, this is what needs to happen. All right. So John, I'm going to get to the point and say, we are out of time, and I'm totally bummed. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with you?
So they can call us at 1-888-883-2483 or go to ptsdlawyers.com. And so a lot of our clients are either veterans who are appealing VA disability decisions, or they're lawyers who represent veterans and realize their veteran, is having an issue with the VA and they need someone to help.
They're in over their head.
Yep, absolutely. And the PTSD comes from post-traumatic stress disorder. So ptsdlawyers.com.
Sounds great. John, you are awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, Brooke. It's always a pleasure to talk with you. Take care.
You too. Bye.
Bye.